What you're about to see is a masterclass in how to dismantle Donald Trump. Over the weekend, Trump launched a barrage of dishonest attacks against combat veteran and Maryland Governor Wes Moore. If you're ready to see what a real winning argument looks like, show your support by hitting the like and subscribe buttons, and don't forget to ring the notification bell so you never miss a video. Now let's watch this together and I'll give my 2 cents at the end.
But what we are facing right now, literally, is a petulant, vindictive individual who has no bottom, who has no ethics or morals, and who literally will attack anyone and everyone and no sense of decency whatsoever. And that was exhibited this weekend with his attacks on you.
Yeah, it's just sad because, he's spending all of his time coming at me because he doesn't want to talk about his record. That's the thing I think people should always remember. When he is making these absurd claims. You know why? It's because he doesn't want to talk about the fact that his economic policies are making life more expensive for everybody. He doesn't want to talk about the fact that his trade war is making food more expensive. It is making clothing more expensive. It's making energy prices more expensive. He doesn't want to talk about the fact that his policies are, in the state of Maryland alone, are kicking 250,000 people off of health care. He doesn't want to talk about the fact that his policies have now kicked over 680,000 people off of food assistance. He doesn't want to talk about the fact that he has now laid off over 12,000 Marylanders, fired over 12,000 Marylanders who are federal workers, the largest number of any state in this entire country. He doesn't want to talk about the fact that his policies have cut funding for local law enforcement, for violence prevention groups. His policies have cut funding for gun violence programs. So what do you do when you don't want to talk about it? You actually just lob insults and you try to distract. And he's been doing this his entire life. And so I wasn't terribly surprised when he took to the airways to talk about how he wants to activate the National Guard. Doing something that frankly is not going to be sustainable, is not going to be scalable, is unconstitutional, and also something that is deeply disrespectful to the members of the National Guard. But also then taking it because every time he's talking about nonsense, he's not talking about the fact that his policies are making life more difficult for everybody every single day.
And the thing here is this here. He literally believes that he has the right to do whatever he wants. And you have to have a legal reason to make this move. Normally, the process is that a governor makes the request that goes to the federal government. He believes he can just do whatever he wants when he wants.
So I'm very glad you said that, because people will sometimes refer to the Insurrection Act, right? And that's the justification that he's using to activate the National Guard. And I said, okay, that's fair. But we want to get technical, let's get technical. What is Article 2, Section 3 and Section 1 and 2, and what is Article 4, Section 4 of the Insurrection Act talk about? It actually talks about, to your point, Roland, it talks about the idea that it requires the state to, once they say they have been overrun or they have had all their resources exhausted, that they then have to send a formal letter and invite the federal government to come on board, which is not the case that we have seen for a single time that the president wants to talk about the Insurrection Act. And so you're absolutely right that there's, I've taken a few oaths in my life. I took an oath when I became a soldier and I joined the United States Army. I took an oath when I became the 63rd governor of the state of Maryland, and when I became the commander-in-chief of the Maryland National Guard. I take those oaths seriously. And one of the oaths that I took was that I would always not just protect this country against all enemies, foreign and domestic, but that also as a soldier that I would follow all legal orders. Now, we have to remember that what the president of the United States is doing oftentimes is picking and choosing what parts of the Constitution to follow and pick and choosing which parts of the laws that will actually work to his benefit and to his favor. And so that's why this activation that he's doing of the National Guard is deeply problematic on a collection of different levels. But one of them is that you do not have the authority to be able to make those moves without some type of state ask or some other type of state build. And that's why I've been very clear. I will not authorize the members of the National Guard to be activated if I do not deem, as the Commander-in-Chief of Maryland's National Guard, if I do not deem them to be mission critical or mission aligned with what's being asked.
The thing was, what I find to be interesting, I had to respond to this idiot, Joe Concha, on Fox News, who was like, Wes Moore lied about a Bronze Star. And you listen to folks like this idiot, if he's a fifth-rate hack, I mean, he's a nobody. But then you have the Donald Trump as well. And I love how these people think that they can tell or they can say, talk about the military. Well, they never put the uniform on. Well, they've never served. They never took that actual oath. And so Mr. Bone Spurs himself, Donald Trump, I mean, give me a break. He ran from service. We know exactly what happened there. And so who is he to understand what the military oath is?
Right. And, and listen, I'm very proud of my service. I'm very proud to have fought on behalf of the country. I'm very proud of the men and women who I serve with, and I know they are proud of me and my service. And I'm proud that to be a decorated combat veteran, to include having received the Bronze Star for my service in Afghanistan, leading paratroopers. And I sometimes you kind of look at who the criticism is coming from. To your point, Roland, I would put my service to this country against Donald Trump's any day of the week. And I really believe that if Donald Trump wants to have a conversation about service to this country, he should really sit this one out, because that's not a debate that I think he wants to have.
That right there is the perfect 1-2 punch. That's the winning formula. Governor Wes Moore just showed every Democrat in the country how it's done. Let's break down the genius of his strategy. He didn't lead with emotion, he led with facts. He spent the first few minutes calmly and methodically listing every single way Trump's policies are devastating his state. He established himself as the serious, informed leader. He built his case. And only then, after he had established his credibility, did he deliver the emotional knockout blow. The Mr. Bone Spurs takedown was so devastating because it came from a place of earned moral authority. It wasn't just an insult, it was a judgment from a man who has actually served. This is the perfect blend of intellect and passion. It's what a real winning strategy looks like, and the Democratic Party needs a lot more of it. So what do you think? Was this an effective takedown? Let me know in the comments, and if you enjoyed this breakdown, make sure you hit the like, subscribe and notification bell for more. Thanks for watching.